Welcome to the Lifetime Assembly channel. My name is John, and today I'm going to show you how to build your horizontal storage shed. Before we get started, make sure the model number of your shed is listed in the description below. This video will follow the steps outlined in the assembly manual that comes with the shed. If you've already begun and need help on a specific step, check the description below for a timestamp associated with each step. Now let's take a look at what comes inside the box. There are steps within this assembly that require more than one person, so be sure to have at least one other adult available to help. Before we get into the assembly process, let's take a look at the tools you'll need to complete the job.
You'll need a 7/16 wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench, a rubber mallet, a Phillips head screwdriver, safety glasses, and a drill. You may see us use an impact driver. If you decide to use one as well, be sure not to over torque or over tighten the hardware. To make this easier, we're going to use a Phillips head bit, a socket adapter, a 7/16 socket, a 1/2 inch socket, and a 13mm wrench.
This video is meant to be used as a companion to the assembly manual and not a direct replacement. So for the best results, make sure to have the assembly manual on hand during the build. It's also crucial that you refer to the assembly manual to review the safety instructions for this build to prevent serious injury or property damage. All right, let's get started. With the help of another person, connect the floor panels together by lifting one side up at a 45-degree angle, interlock the tabs, and then lay it back down. Make sure you keep a constant pressure as you're laying it down. Connect the floor panels together with the hardware into these divots, making sure not to dimple the floor. Take a wall panel labeled AHD and insert the tabs at the bottom of the panel into the cutouts on the long edge of the floor panel. Using a rubber mallet and a block, tap the wall panel over to lock it into place. Insert another wall panel labeled AHD next to the previous panel using the same method as before. Before screwing the panels together, make sure that the top of these panels are even. Take one of the corner panels labeled AGL and insert the tabs at the bottom into the cutouts on the short edge. Then slide it over to lock it into place. Now that you have that locked in place, lean the panel over, fold the panel in half, make sure the panel sits on the inside of this panel, the tabs will line up at the bottom, and then apply downward pressure to lock it in place. If you're having a hard time getting the tabs to lock into place, take the block that comes with the shed and place it directly under the tab under the floor. Then apply downward pressure to lock that in place, and then slide it over for the next tab. Before inserting the screws, make sure the top of the wall panels are even. Take the other corner wall panel labeled AGL and add it to this corner using the same method as before. The only difference is this panel will go on the outside of the neighboring wall panel instead of on the inside. Take the panel labeled AGY and add it to this edge into these cutouts on the floor panel. If you have another person helping you, have them stand on the floor while you lock the panels in place. That way the shed doesn't move. Repeat the previous step for the wall panel labeled AGN on the opposite side. For this step, we're going to tip the assembly onto its back. Make sure to have the help of another person, otherwise some of the tabs could pop out of the floor and then you'd have to stop and pop them back in before moving on. For this step, you need support tubes. The ones we're looking for don't have any holes except for a little one right here. When sliding them together, you'll take the narrow end and slide it into the same side where that little hole is, making sure that that little hole is facing you. With the help of another person, fold the wall panels over, making sure that the square hole in the floor panel lines up with the square hole in the wall. Then insert the support tube, making sure that the little hole in the middle is facing up. If you're having a hard time getting the support tube to go in, you may need to use a rubber mallet. Push the support tube up until there's about 1 inch hanging out. Then insert a self-tapping screw into the little hole. If there's a little bit of a gap right here, that's totally normal. Now that you've got the screw in, go ahead and push the support tube up the rest of the way. Take the other support tubes that have all the holes and slide them together. With the shed upright and the help of another person, lift the support tube up into the shed, making sure that the overhang goes into the cutouts on the walls. Secure the support to the wall with the hardware. Before you secure the support tube to the back wall, make sure your corners are at 90 degrees and then insert the hardware, but also if there's a gap in the middle, it's totally normal. Take your self-tapping screw and insert it into the little hole in the tubes. For this step, we're going to secure this corner of the shed. Remember, there's a support tube that goes through this part of the wall. We're using self-tapping screws so it'll go through the metal underneath the plastic. And then do this for the other side as well. Add the door stopper onto these holes on the floor, making sure that the slightly tapered edge is facing the opening on the shed. Take the left door, which is the door with the Lifetime logo, and place your door support on the opposite edge from where the Lifetime logo is. There are 2 door supports that are identical. Take one of them and place them into this channel oriented like this. Secure the support channel to the door. You'll notice these cutouts. They're there so that you can make sure that you get the right angle to insert the screw. On the opposite edge of the door, you'll notice these 2 divots. Make sure the locking tab is oriented like this and secure it with the hardware. There's another support channel that looks like this. To make sure it's oriented correctly, place the cutout over the locking tab like this. This side also has cutouts so you can insert your hardware. Take the two halves of the handle and connect them together. Then line up the holes in the handle with the holes in the door. Add a washer to the two longer screws and then insert them to the two holes at the top. Now add a washer to the short screw and insert it into the bottom hole. When adding the hinges, if it doesn't close completely and sits like this, you'll know you need to change it so that when you close it, it sits flat. Now that you've got it oriented correctly, open the hinge, making sure that the divots are lined up with the holes and secure with the hardware. While you're drilling, it may be helpful to look on the back side to make sure that your screw is going through the hole in the support. Take the square tube, and if yours has a hole right here, that's just for powder coating, so you don't need to worry about it. Insert the square tube into the square hole at the bottom of the right door. Leave about 6 inches hanging out so that you can add a square cap to the end. Then push the tube the rest of the way in. Make sure the square tube is flush with the end of the door, and then insert the self-tapping screw into the divot, and the screw is designed to go through the tube. On the opposite side of the door, add the channel to this groove, making sure it's oriented like this. Then secure it just like you did the other channel on the other door. Add the handle to this door the same way you did the other door. On the bottom side of the door, add the door pin to these divots with the hardware. Remember, when you add the door hinges, make sure they sit flat before you add the hardware. Now we're going to add the hinges to the support on the inside of the wall panel, but I like to add one screw on each before I put the bottom one in. That way it gives you the best chance of lining things up with the divots that are already on the wall. Take the two halves of the lid, line them up in the middle, and secure with the hardware. Orient your latch like this, then place the lid support over the latch like this. Secure the two together, but make sure the head of the bolt is on the support side. Secure this hardware using a 7/16 wrench or socket. Be careful not to over tighten, otherwise the cap nuts could break. Add the lid support assembly to the front of the lid by inserting one of the ends into the cutout by lifting it up at an angle, then bring it down. Bring this side in and bow the middle out, line up the cutout, and then bring it back in. Then add the hardware to the middle of these oblong holes. Rotate the lid and add the middle hinge oriented like this to these notches here. Then go ahead and secure with the hardware. Add the hinge to the left side of the lid. You'll know it's in the correct spot when it sits in the grooves and the triangle side of the hinge is facing up. Add the ball studs to these larger holes, making sure that the ball studs are facing in. When tightening this hardware, the ball stud is a 13mm and the nut is a 1/2 inch. Repeat the same process on the other side of the lid using the other hinge. Make sure the holes on the long part of the hinge line up with the divots on the lid and then secure with the hardware. In preparation for the next step, lift the hinges up at a 90-degree angle. With the help of another person, lift the lid onto the back side of the wall. As you do this, make sure that the short side of this hinge right here goes on the outside of the wall and that the long side here goes on the inside of the wall. Line up the holes and secure with the hardware. The hardware in this step requires 7/16 wrenches or sockets to tighten. Have someone continue to hold the lid while you add this bracket to these divots on the inside of the shed. Press the gas spring onto the ball stud, making sure it's oriented like this. Open the right door, close the lid, and make sure that the latch goes over the locking tab. If it doesn't, you need to reuse a rubber mallet and tap it one way or the other so that it lines up. Now that you know your latch is in the correct spot, finish securing the lid supports to the lid with the hardware. Since we're inside, we're not going to be able to anchor our shed, but it's important that you do. So refer to your instruction manual in section 4 to see how to properly anchor your shed. Thank you for watching this video on how to assemble your lifetime horizontal storage shed. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up. For more content like this, subscribe to our channel. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our customer service team and check out our other awesome products at lifetime.com.